Progress is built on daily choices, not giant leaps, because the life we want to create rarely arrives in a single dramatic moment, but instead grows quietly out of the decisions we make every day, the small commitments we keep when no one is watching, and the steady discipline of showing up for ourselves even when the outcome feels far away. And while it is tempting to believe that transformation is born from sudden breakthroughs, the truth is that the breakthroughs are almost always the result of countless unseen choices stacked upon one another, like bricks building a foundation strong enough to hold the weight of something extraordinary. And when we shift our attention from the distant finish line to the next right step, we give ourselves permission to move without being overwhelmed. We allow ourselves to make mistakes without quitting, and we create momentum that compounds in ways we can't always see in the moment, because progress is rarely a straight path, but a series of small, deliberate steps that carry us forward even when they feel insignificant. And it is in these moments of choice, choosing patience over impatience, effort over avoidance, courage over fear, that we shape the trajectory of our lives, because each decision reinforces a story we tell ourselves about who we are becoming, and slowly those choices create evidence of growth, and growth builds belief, and belief fuels persistence, and persistence eventually leads to results so significant that others may call them sudden, yet we know they are anything but sudden. They are the natural harvest of daily planting, watering, and tending, and while we often wait for the perfect timing or the dramatic opportunity, real progress comes from honoring the ordinary moments, from practicing consistency when it would be easier to give in to distraction, from waking up one more time and trying again, from recognizing that small shifts in how we speak, how we act, how we treat ourselves, ripple outward to create transformation larger than we ever imagined. And what makes daily choices so powerful is not that each one changes everything instantly, but that together they form the habits, the resilience, and the clarity we need to carry us to places we once thought impossible. And the most liberating part of this truth is that we don't have to control everything at once. We don't have to climb the entire mountain today. We simply have to decide what kind of step we are willing to take right now, and then take it, because progress is not measured by the size of the leap, but by the direction of our steps. And when we honor the value of small, consistent choices, we discover that the results we dreamed of were never built in a single moment of glory, but in the thousands of quiet, faithful decisions that came before. Courage often looks like showing up, not finishing first, because real bravery is not measured by winning, outperforming, or standing on top of some imagined podium, but by the willingness to step into the arena when the outcome is uncertain, when fear is loud, and when failure feels possible. And too often we confuse courage with grand achievements, overlooking the quiet power of persistence, of standing up again after falling, of choosing to face the day even when it feels heavy. And the truth is that the hardest and most transformative battles are rarely won in spectacular moments of triumph, but in the ordinary decisions to keep showing up for the work, for the dream, for the people we love, and for ourselves, even when no one else is keeping score. And what makes this kind of courage so profound is that it does not demand perfection or certainty. It only asks for presence, for the willingness to be seen in all of our vulnerability, to risk stumbling, to risk being misunderstood, to risk not finishing first and yet daring to enter the race anyway. And when we practice this kind of courage, we discover that progress is not defined by the pace we keep or the recognition we receive, but by the integrity of simply refusing to give up, because every time we choose to show up, even imperfectly, we reinforce the truth that our worth is not tied to outcomes, but to effort. And this truth frees us from the paralysis of comparison, from the lie that if we can't be the best, then it isn't worth trying, and it teaches us that growth comes through presence, not perfection, and that the simple act of trying again can reshape who we are becoming, because courage is a practice, not a performance, and practice means repeating small acts of faith in ourselves until they become part of our identity. And though the world may celebrate the one who crosses the line first, the deeper story is found in those who kept moving even when the finish line felt impossibly far away, in those who chose to rise when staying down would have been easier, in those who learned that The real victory is not about winning, but about honoring the part of ourselves that refuses to quit. And when we look back, we will see that the defining moments of our lives were not when we finished first, but when we showed up despite the odds, despite the fear, and despite the uncertainty. And it is in those moments that we build resilience, courage, and the quiet kind of strength that cannot be taken away. The kind that whispers to us that showing up was always enough, because showing up is where change begins, where growth happens, and where courage lives. Consistency transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary outcomes because what we do repeatedly shapes not only the results we achieve, but also the person we become. And while big dreams and bold intentions may inspire us for a moment, it is the steady rhythm of daily effort that carries us forward, taking what looks insignificant in the moment and compounding it into something remarkable over time. And the truth is that almost nothing extraordinary begins with fanfare. It begins with small, simple actions practiced again and again until they build a momentum that cannot be ignored. Like the musician who practices scales until their hands move effortlessly, the writer who sits down daily to craft sentences that eventually form a masterpiece, or the athlete who runs mile after mile until endurance is built in the fibers of their being. And what makes consistency so powerful is not that each action alone changes everything, but that together they create a force that multiplies our effort and magnifies our growth. And yet consistency is often underestimated because it lacks the drama of sudden breakthroughs. It requires patience, persistence, and the humility to keep going. When progress feels invisible, but it is in those invisible seasons where character is forged, where resilience deepens, and where extraordinary results are quietly taking shape beneath the surface. And when we practice consistency, we learn that discipline is not about rigidity, but about commitment, about aligning our choices with what matters most even when motivation fades. And this alignment transforms us because it teaches us to trust ourselves, to rely on our capacity to endure, and to believe that ordinary steps repeated faithfully are enough to move us closer to extraordinary outcomes. And though inconsistency may offer the illusion of faster progress through bursts of effort, it is consistency that sustains, that carries us through the days when energy is low and enthusiasm is absent. And it is this very persistence that separates fleeting attempts from lasting change, because every act of consistency is a vote for who we are becoming, a quiet declaration that our future is worth the effort. And as those votes accumulate, they create habits, and habits shape destiny. And destiny is nothing more than the sum of countless ordinary actions done consistently over time, and the extraordinary emerges not because we sought perfection, but because we honored the power of repetition. And the more we lean into this truth, the more we understand that greatness is never a single act of brilliance, but the steady accumulation of faithful steps, each one simple on its own, but together unstoppable. And that is how ordinary actions, anchored by consistency, grow into extraordinary outcomes that others may call miraculous, but we know were built by the daily choice to keep going, to keep showing up, and to keep doing the work even when no one else noticed. Small steps are how we dismantle fear and build resilience, because fear often grows when we stare too far ahead, when we focus on the enormity of the challenge rather than the single action right in front of us. And resilience is not born from sudden bursts of bravery, but from the gradual strengthening that happens every time we choose to move forward, however small that movement may be. And the truth is that fear thrives on inaction. It gains power when we freeze, when we imagine every possible failure before we even begin. But small steps cut fear down to size. They remind us that we don't need to have the entire path figured out to make progress. We just need to take one manageable action that proves to ourselves we are capable of moving. And once that first step is taken, momentum begins to build, the unknown becomes a little less intimidating, and our confidence grows not from eliminating fear, but from learning to act in spite of it. And this process slowly weaves resilience into our character, because resilience is not about never struggling, but about learning that we can survive the struggle and still continue forward. And with each small step, we practice getting Up after stumbling, we practice adjusting when things don't go as planned, and we practice trusting that effort matters more than perfection, and the more we repeat this practice, the stronger we become, not because life gets easier, but because we become better equipped to handle its weight. And when setbacks come, as they always do, it is the memory of the small steps we've already taken that reminds us we have the strength to keep going, that resilience is not built in comfort but in persistence, and fear, no matter how overwhelming it feels, cannot withstand steady action, because every step forward dismantles the lie that we are powerless. Every small choice to try again proves that courage is alive within us, and in time those steps accumulate into a path of transformation, a path that shows us that resilience is not a fixed trait, but a skill we build, brick by brick, moment by moment, until we realize that what once seemed impossible is now behind us, and what once terrified us has become part of the story of our strength. And in this way, small steps are both the remedy to fear and the foundation of resilience, because they allow us to act when fear tells us to stop. They teach us to endure when giving up would be easier, and they remind us that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward anyway, one small, steady step at a time. The journey shapes us as much as the destination does, because the path we walk, with all its twists, detours, and unexpected turns, is what molds our character, strengthens our resilience, and deepens our understanding of what truly matters. And while it is natural to fix our eyes on destination, believing that the arrival point will be the moment of transformation, it is actually the experiences along the way that carve the deepest changes within us. And every obstacle we encounter, every failure we endure, every small victory we celebrate, becomes part of the person we are becoming, teaching us lessons that the destination alone could never provide. And the truth is that if we only valued the outcome, we would miss the countless moments of growth that happen in the process, because it is in the journey that we learn patience when progress is slow, courage when fear whispers we cannot continue, humility when we realize we need help, and gratitude when we recognize beauty even in difficulty. And each step, no matter how challenging, contributes to shaping our perspective, refining our values, and building the strength we will need not just to reach destination, but to thrive once we get there. And though the destination may be the reason we begin, it is the journey that ensures we are ready to receive it, because without the shaping of the process, the goal achieved would feel empty, fleeting, or unearned. But with the journey behind us, the destination carries meaning far beyond its surface. And when we look back, what often stands out most are not the milestones we thought would define us, but the moments when we chose to keep going, the people who walked alongside us, the resilience we discovered in the face of hardship, and the small joys that sustained us along the way. And in this way, the journey is not simply a means to an end, but a teacher, a sculptor, a refining fire that shapes us into someone more capable, more compassionate, and more grounded than when we first set out. And it reminds us that success is not only about achieving the goal, but about who we became in the process of striving for it. And the paradox is that while we may begin our pursuit with the destination in mind, when we finally arrive, we often realize that the truest reward is not the destination itself, but the person the journey has helped us to become, because every step along the way mattered, every challenge carried a lesson, and every moment of perseverance built a strength that no arrival point could ever give on its own. Big results are simply the accumulation of small, faithful efforts, because nothing truly lasting or meaningful is built in an instant. And while the world often celebrates the dramatic breakthrough or the final achievement, what really creates that moment is the quiet, consistent work done day after day, often without recognition, often without visible progress, and often in the face of doubt. And these small, faithful efforts, showing up when it would be easier to quit, choosing discipline over comfort, practicing patience when results feel far away, are the bricks that build extraordinary outcomes, because each one compounds upon the last, creating momentum that may be invisible at first, but becomes undeniable over time. And though the efforts themselves may seem ordinary or even insignificant in the moment, their cumulative power is what transforms them into something remarkable, and this truth is liberating because it means we do not have to create greatness all at once. We only need to be faithful with what is in front of us, to trust that the seed planted today will grow in time if we continue to nurture it, and this kind of faithfulness requires resilience, the willingness to act without immediate reward, the strength to keep choosing the next step when impatience tempts us to give up, and the humility to believe that even our smallest actions matter, and in doing so, we begin to understand that big results are not an accident but a harvest, a natural consequence of countless moments of perseverance and courage, and while others may look at the outcome and call it sudden or lucky, we will know that it was built in the quiet, ordinary, unglamorous moments when we stayed committed, when we pushed forward through fatigue, when we believed in the value of steady effort, and it is through this process that we also build character, because the same small efforts that create results also shape the person making them, instilling patience, discipline, and trust in our own ability to endure. And as those efforts accumulate, not only do they move us closer to the goal, but they also transform the journey itself into something meaningful, reminding us that greatness is not about one grand gesture, but about thousands of faithful choices layered together until they create something extraordinary. And in this way, big results are never really big in the beginning. They are small, almost invisible, carried forward by steady hands and determined hearts. And they only appear extraordinary once the accumulation of effort has had time to reveal its full weight and beauty.